It's a very common misperception that tourists call us trash. They don't. The majority of waste in Bali and in most places is municipal.
Okay.
So it comes from the homes.
From the homes, right.
Improper disposal of the trash is what ends up on beaches. And in Bali, 72% of our waste is organic. So we talk about plastic is the big problem. Plastic's one of the things that you see.
Yeah.
But the number one reason our plastic recycling rate is so low, organic waste contamination. So if we actually want to tackle the plastic problem, we have to tackle the organic problem. You have a landfill. That landfill is full of organics and inorganics, and rain comes onto the landfill. What happens is that water gets into that landfill. Now, organics are incredibly acidic, so that acid starts pulling through the landfill, pulls it all through. Where does that go? Into the soil and into the groundwater. What do we rely on here for our water? Groundwater. Everybody has a 1 meter square sphere of influence that they are in control of. So separate. And if you don't separate, you are not just part of the problem, you are the problem.
Okay, good morning, Tobias Wilson, and good morning, guys. Welcome to episode 9 of Dialogue Hospitality Podcast, now with me, Alfrista. And special for today is because we have so interesting topic that we're gonna discuss furthermore about this kind of informations that has been an issue lately here, especially in Bali. And we have special guest here, Tobias Wilson, as the founder of Shiva Industries. How are you today?
Bagus sekali.
Bagus sekali. Selamat pagi. Om Swastiastu. Okay. So we will explore how local innovations like born and built in Denpasar especially, which is transforming the hospitality sector from a major polluter into a regenerative force, which is our objective is to showcase a scalable, systematic, like everything that related to your industry, especially for Shiva industry. So maybe you can share to us about how Shiva Industries starts, especially here in Bali, and how the main purpose of it and everything that you need to share.
Oh, it's such a good question, but it's a really big one. So first of all, thank you for having me. It's great to be here. Look, Shiva really came about just from the need. I think when my family and I moved over here from Singapore. We were in Singapore for 17 years.
Okay.
And we decided that we wanted a change of pace and a bit of a different life. I've got 3 young boys, so 10, 8 and 4. So we wanted something different for them. And my wife and I wanted something different. We'd had corporate careers and, we were looking for something new. And whether that seed was born out of COVID and being confined for so long, I don't know. But we suddenly realized that nobody was keeping us in Singapore. Nobody was paying us to be in Singapore anymore. And Bali became the choice. So when we arrived, it was really about spending quality family time. And that included a lot of spending time in nature. And you can't spend any time in nature without seeing trash. And so that became really my vocation. Was doing Sungai Watch cleanups and just doing beach cleanups with my kids. We go down the beach and take a couple of garbage bags and go and fill them up. And that was the start, really. And then I sort of started looking at where does this waste go once we pick it up? I understand where it comes from, but where does it go once we pick it up? And that's when I was introduced to the sustainability community here in Bali, which is phenomenal and thriving and just an amazing group of individuals focused on all of the tough topics and met some phenomenal people and started to find out more and started to get more and more interested and starting to learn more. And through that, I was introduced to a guy from the US, from Arkansas, Heath.
Here in Bali?
Yeah. He reached out to me and wanted to build a sustainable home here and wanted me to connect him to some people and sustainable materials, etc. And when he came over, he was shocked at the amount of organic waste. And it was weird because I'd never thought of organic waste as a problem. Honestly, this is 3 years ago. I just I'll give you the exact question. Tobias, what happens to all the organics? And my answer was, I don't know. I think it goes in the river, or they burn it, or it just goes back into soil, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was really wrong. And he introduced me to obviously some of the issues around organic waste, but then into the world of aerobic digestion, which is ultimately where Shiva has been born from.
Okay, so that's the reasons why you started.
Yeah.
And as we know, may I know first when you moved to Bali? When it was?
In February 2023.
2023.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's after COVID, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, because I really love Bali.
Mm.
So I'm going to share my personal experience first, right? About Bali and how it's changed a lot in this past 3 years before. And I came to Bali after COVID because the government regulations just opened the domestic flights only. So yeah, I celebrated my birthday here with my family, and I saw Bali totally hit differently because low tourist activities, no tourists at all from any other countries around the world, especially. And I found interesting that Kuta Beach is less of trash in that moment because no one's going there. And I really hope that Bali can attract more tourists and next year in the future. But sometimes, yeah, we cannot control everything in our life, including the environment that we are living in, especially for the trash here in Bali, either it's organic or inorganic. But I really found it's interesting what Shiva Industry really works for now, for this past 3 years, that why the reasons you started, you really have the concern to recycle, especially for the organic and organic, you have the mission for it. And I really want to get to know about, for this kind of issues here in Bali, especially for trash, organics, everything, that how did you find out with your friends or maybe with your personal experience, personal point of view for it, and what is the main purpose for Shiva Industries?
Can I just go back though?
Yeah.
It's a really common misconception, and don't get me wrong, this is my field, right? So I have to be a specialist in it. It's a very common misperception that tourists call us trash. They don't. The majority of waste in Bali and in most places is municipal.
Okay.
So it comes from the homes.
From the homes, right.
Improper disposal of the trash is what ends up on beaches because it comes down the sungais. So if you were here around rainy season, Kuta Beach would have been a mess.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw it.
And Kendonganan and etc.
Everything.
Right. Because what goes into the rivers ends up on the beaches. And that's why people like Sungai Watch exist. But if you think about a standard tourist, they go from the airport and they'll go to their accommodation, probably a hotel, right? Then they might eat. None of that food waste is theirs. Where does the trash go? In the hotel. It's a hotel bin. So maybe they'll leave the hotel and go on a day trip. Maybe they'll take a water bottle. Maybe they won't. They'll go to a restaurant for lunch or a warung. When are they creating trash?
Okay.
Then they get in a car and they might go to a bar. And then they might go to a restaurant. When does the tourist go off and create trash? Now, let's say they're staying in an Airbnb. How many times on holiday do you go to the supermarket and get food to cook at an Airbnb? How many Airbnbs have pots and pans to cook?
Oh, yeah.
So, when we talk about problems, we've got to talk about the actual problem, not the press releases or some of the marketing that we've been seeing, right? You've got to talk about the actual problem. And in Bali, 72% of our waste is organic. So we talk about plastic is the big problem. Plastic's one of the things that you see.
Yeah.
But the number one reason our plastic recycling rate is so low, it's at only 7% in Bali. 7% of the plastic is recycled, okay, which is well below the global average. The number one reason, organic waste contamination.
Okay.
So if we actually want to tackle the plastic problem, we have to tackle the organic problem. Okay, because we've proven without tackling the organic problem that we have a really low recycling rate of our plastic. So if we really care about plastic, we have to care more about organics. So it dovetails really nicely. Okay, and it's kind of my answer for Shiva, right? When I realized the enormity of the problems and the issues being caused by organic waste, all of my pipe dreams of doing recycled plastic and a bit of this and construction materials and composites and all of the really cool, fun scientific stuff and designy stuff, to be honest, went out the window. Because when I looked, we have so many great companies at all layers of the plastic chain, okay? And that's awesome, and we need that, and we need more, okay? But there was nobody in organics. And when I looked at from a technological layer, and with, say, aerobic digestion, there was nobody in Indonesia.
Oh.
And I thought it was my research skills and a bit of an anomaly, and maybe I got it wrong. And I tried in Bahasa, I tried in Balinese, I tried everything to find, who was doing this and who was working on this problem at a scale that was going to make a dent in the problem, was going to have an impact. And there wasn't anybody. And so that's where Heath comes back into the picture. He's an aerobic digestion expert, and really, it was well, we didn't start Shiva. We didn't start this company to be where we're at even today, or I think where we're going. It just started to, could we build it here? Because importing that technology is expensive. Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
And even from China, or where we would traditionally import things from to get it cheaper. And the tech is expensive. And moreover, organic waste is incredibly acidic and really unstable and tough to deal with. So it's very hard working on the machines. It's very hard wearing on the machines. And so maintenance becomes an issue. So, okay, we might get the machine over. It's going to cost us a fortune to ship it. It's going to cost us a fortune to get it through customs, get it delivered. But then what happens when a problem happens? We've got to wait for parts on a ship, or we've got to fly somebody in. With organic waste, as soon as we peel the watermelon, we take the peel off the watermelon, or we take the meat off that bone, or we cut off those offcuts, or we fillet that fish, the clock is ticking. And we got to talk in minutes, not months, when something goes wrong. And so these were all things that we took into account and really landed on the most efficient, the most beneficial for Indonesia and for Bali, and for our customers ultimately would be to have the tech developed locally. And so we started doing our digital prototyping. We worked with an advisory panel of 6 experts from around the world, from the US and Europe, etc. And we worked with a local team. Balinese engineers.
Oh,
we found
farmers too.
Yeah, we worked with Balinese microbes.
Okay.
And we just started trying, and that was it. That was the start. So we designed a machine that we thought would get the job done. We built that machine, and then we started testing.
So it's kind of the mission of Shiva Industries since the 2023, right? Or as we know that Shiva Industries starting and proudly built here in Bali.
Very
and
much.
We all know that the milestone of the opening the new Denpasar factory, right, in July 2025, is to scale impact across Indonesia. But may I know about why do you choose Denpasar area to escalation your Shiva Industry businesses?
Honestly, it's simplicity and speed. So a lot of the suppliers where we get even nuts and bolts and things like that from, or any of our sensors and stuff, are based around that area. So it's to make it easier for the team.
Okay.
It's a great industrial area. It's right near main roads. It's easy to get to for all of the team as well. So it's quite central, and we've got teams in Gianyar, etc. So it's pretty easy for them to get to, as well as the teams in Tabanan and stuff. So it was just the path of least resistance.
So it's part of the mobility too, right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so based on what you mentioned before, that from global fact to Bali's magic third, that how to solve this kind of problems from Bali's waste crisis, that we know that you are also connecting with the community around the area. And from the community impacts, can you tell me about the story behind it and how it's kind of be related from the Singaraja farmers that you've given the name for it, and how Shiva aligns Western science with the Balinese agricultural traditions, as we know that it's more culture and traditions for Balinese itself, and how do you make it?
Look, in a word, clumsily, as a bule, I mean, I'm desperately trying to learn, and in my sort of broken Balinese would be badet, you know,
Okay.
so, you know, just a little bit, but with a pure heart. So I think that's something that I know my Balinese team and my Balinese friends and network, they really appreciate. And it's you know, rolling up your sleeves and just getting dirty. You know, that's it. And that's, if we're talking about the Gurukak farmers up north in Desa Patas, you know, we had a connection to that village through one of my team members, and these people are struggling, and they're trying to grow California papaya to support their families, etc. But there's no education, there's no support. They get subsidized chemical fertilizers, obviously, but that's not good for udara, tanah, dan air. So, or their families, right? The orangs, right? So we took a ton of our digestate up there to donate to them. And look, they're never going to buy a machine from us. They're never going to buy a fertilizer product from us. But it was the right thing to do. And we took our team up, Pak Tut, who's our eco champion at Shiva. He's been with us since the start. He's pretty well known in the organic farming community, and or very well known, I guess, and has just been, you know, a real champion for all things environment, and particularly around the farming, the food production, but also waste. And so, you know, really it's just letting him go and do what he does absolutely best and trying to help him and support him as much as possible. The other side of that is our recent CSR campaign that we launched, which is called Dari Bali, Untuk Bali.
Yeah.
And so when Suwung was closed in August, we sat down and Tut and I really started to prototype on action. What can we do to act? You know, and not about Shiva, not about our machines, but like, what do people need? You know, what do these people need that are now putting their plastic bags at the end of their gun?
How can we help them?
Yeah, and it's piling up, right? So we worked on a really super simple home composter system kit, and we went through about 15 prototypes. Tut's amazing at this. Like, he's sort of kampong engineering astounds me, and I come from the bush, so you know I'm very much used to bush mechanics, but he's so talented. And we finally landed on a sort of 20-litre bucket, and it's got a tap. It's got a simple bucket inside, a plastic bucket inside with a bit of alderon that we heat and flatten out, and we drill holes in that, and that's it. And so, but the main part of the brief was, how do we make this as cheap and as replicable as possible? So we have given out about 800 now, I think a little bit more. And we've committed to giving out 2,500 of these buckets to the community, to people in need, but with the view that they can copy it. And so when we give these buckets away, we work with the Banjar to build them on site. So they see the buckets, they drill the hole in, they put the tap in, they put the bowls, they drill the holes in that, they flatten out the alderon, they put that in. And so it's easily replicable. And this bucket seals tight. No bacteria, or our microbes go inside, but no bacteria, no rodents problems, no smell problems, nothing. Just a safe place to put your sampah makanan, and which creates a compost and the compost tea, which is why it has a tap. So we're constantly looking for ways to engage with the community and support, and really, I think it's incredibly important for me. And look, even the name of the company was out of deep respect to the community that gave us the time and space and opportunity to do what we're doing.
Okay, so that's the reasons why to reconnect to the community and other farmers too. And why? May I know why Singaraja?
One of our staff members, his wife is from the community up there.
Okay.
So It's beautiful up there, but also it's often overlooked because it's so far away.
Yeah.
So for all of those reasons, and the ride there is just 3 hours over the mountains there in Badoogal is stunning. I mean, it's just a beautiful part of Bali.
Beautiful.
And
I agree.
And that was, we knew people there, so it made things even more meaningful. And the fact for our team that we're going in and supporting their local community or their home village, that's meaningful for them too. So that's, that for me, it's obviously it's far away. It's not going to be famous. People aren't going to drive by and go, wow, look at, what Shiva's done there. That's okay. It's been really meaningful for the community. They call it magic dirt because of the way that the papayas responded to the digestate, which is fantastic. But, it was just about doing good for good's sake.
Okay, so maybe we can put this more aligned to our hospitality industry, as we know that Bali is the most hospitality industries that growed so fast for this past years, and it between the paradox of paradise, between the reality and versus the brochure. So when we saw that disconnect between the 5-star guest experiences and the 1-star waste infrastructure behind the scenes, as you know that we previously been talking Bali about over-tourism and of course the exponential growth of waste. So is Bali at a point of no return? And how do you think about the psychological impact on the travelers? As we know that a lot of travelers all around the world, especially from Indonesia, other area too, like when does a bucket list destination become a cautionary tale?
Okay, that's a really big layered question. Where would you like me to start?
Maybe we can start for, is it Bali at a point of no return for this one?
No, not at all. And the example that I was given the other day, which I thought was brilliant, was you look at Chernobyl. Okay. Nature just needs a bit of time and space to do what nature does. So is Bali beyond the point of no return? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Are we already being affected by environmental issues? Yeah, of course. Yeah. And you can look at any travel blog or any website and, anybody can find that in 2 seconds. So we're not fighting an invisible boogeyman that's coming later. It's not a maybe if, it's already happening now. And I think the first quarter of this year, not 2 quarters, the first quarter of this year, first 2 months, I'll try and get my words out properly, have been tough for the hospitality industry. And I believe Q1 last year was soft as well. And from what I've heard, Q1 this year has been, equal if not worse. So, yeah, the impacts are happening right now. The good part about that is even the naysayers or even the bad guys, let's say, out there, cannot refute that they're now having their top line impacted by environmental issues on the whole. And that's what makes bad guys act when they start losing money. Okay. So I think I am the most optimistic that I've been since arriving, that we're having the right conversations at the right levels and really pushing and driving the right kind of actions and behaviours. We've still got a really long way to go. And it requires everybody, all hands across an entire waste flow. And even in organics, we need separation, obviously, is number one. But we need allocation. Can we give any of this food to humans or animals? And then we need, to look at what we can do to recycle this. And it doesn't have to be Shiva's technology, and it shouldn't be. It needs to be composting and black soldier fly and vermicomposting. There's so many other things that we can do. with in particular with organic waste. But we just need to understand that we have to do that, and I feel like the collective we are really coming around to that. So no, the short answer, we are not beyond the point of no return. I'm not a tourism expert, but I think the dirtier the place gets, the demographics of tourists arriving will change.
Yeah.
So I'll leave that up to the experts in the comment section, because there's always experts in comment sections, to tell us about the changing demographics of tourists, because I believe in Indonesia's aspirations to increase the spend per head, and obviously stabilize the tourist numbers. And I think that's the right play. So having more low quality tourists who probably have a higher propensity to maybe take that bottle on that walk, but then chuck it, lower quality tourists, I think is not the answer, is not the solution, and would only accelerate the problems that we're having until we get the proper infrastructure in place to deal with our waste appropriately.
Okay, so that's a no return for this one thing, and especially for talking about the psychological impact on the travelers, right? And as I mentioned it before, the bucket list destination lately from all the tourist types become a cautionary tale. So what do you think about it? Like, is it the trust impact? It's a lot of issues here lately here in Bali maybe impact the tourists, or the travelers might be coming to Bali for this one.
Yeah, if you come for nature, which most people do, and nature is riddled with trash, then you're going to have a negative experience. Like that's common sense. So if you're coming for cheap bintang singos and beers and sitting around a bar in Kuta or Legian or whatever, it might not bother you too much. If you come from a country which has really dense populations, a bit of trash around, but a mess around, you probably don't even notice it. So I think it really depends. And that's where I really would like to understand more about the demographics that have shifted over the past, say, 5 years, and the types of people that we used to attract and the type of people that we attract now. But God, Bali as a bucket list destination Bali is so bloody beautiful.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Just going on a scooter ride for an hour in any direction, you are in Bali, and so often I see all these influencers online and stuff. Oh, look at me, I'm in the thick of Canggu and it's not Bali anymore. No, it's not. Okay. But if you took it upon yourself to spend 30 minutes or 40 minutes heading west or north, that's where Bali is. And it's still as beautiful as ever.
Yeah, I agree with you. Bali's still beautiful until right now, right this second time. Like, for how many times you visit Bali, Bali's still beautiful for me too. Because we put besides the waste of the organics, everything, the crisis that related to the waste, the trash, we put aside of it, but we saw in different perspective, it's still beautiful.
Absolutely.
It depends on you individually, actually, for me, because to solve these kind of problems, it's not only for Shiva Industries duties, right? It's for everyone's around Bali, everyone's who coming to Bali. Whatever you do, whatever job that you are working on, you have to take responsibility for yourself, because it's like we make this together for the future Bali, for the good, everything that we hope until now. So yeah. Besides everything that we are talking about, the crisis, everything we're talking about, the ways, it's really important for you individually to talk to yourself, to realize that you don't have to waste so much time to throw a trash anywhere, because you have to respect the area too. You have to respect the Bali too. And yeah, we really saw it's interesting to show that Shiva Industries really works very well to help everything and to solve the problems. The main purpose is to the organic crisis waste in Bali, to help the Singaraja farmers too, the community. And it sounds really interesting because we solve this trash from the resources that you have mentioned it before. It's like the circular economy shift, right? So when we talk about the plastic utilizations, moving beyond collection, how can we turn Bali's plastic waste into high-value construction or hospitality materials? As we know that a lot of hospitality industries starting their sustainability program in their management, right? And they have different type of program. And how can we turn Bali's plastic waste into high value constructions from your side?
Not my field of engineering, but separate it.
Separate it.
Keep it clean. That's the number one thing that every single person.
That roots basic one.
That's what every single person has access to and can do. Okay. When you cut up that mango, it's beautiful. It's fresh. It smells yum. Okay. You want to eat it, right? And you will, but you at that point in time, you can put that skin and that seed into a separate container. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't go into your mixed bin and mix up with all the plastics and stuff. Because I guarantee you that beautiful mango in about 12 to 24 hours is not so beautiful anymore. And in about 36 hours, pretty seriously yuck.
Yeah.
And you're expecting somebody else to then get that off the plastic that they need to turn into, to give it another life, to upcycle, recycle, etc. So separate. And if you don't separate, you are not just part of the problem, you are the problem. Okay. So we need to stop worrying about he said, she said, they did, they didn't, etc. Everybody has a 1 meter square sphere of influence that they are in control of. They are in control of their actions, they're in control of their thoughts, etc. And if they do not act appropriately within that square meter, then how the hell are they granted the right to pick on anybody else who is doing what they're doing in their sphere? So separate your waste. If we do not separate our waste globally, this is not a Bali thing, this is not an Indonesia thing, right? This is a global thing. If we do not separate our waste, we're expecting someone down the food chain to do it for us when it's at its worst. And we deal with organic waste, so I know what the worst is, and it's rough. That to me is the ultimate disrespect. That somebody else can do it.
Yeah.
It's
like a wrong mindset, right?
It's just horrible. And in Indonesia, I think 1% of the population identify as trash pickers. Mm-hmm. So they live on or from landfills, and that's here in Bali too. Both legal dumps and illegal dumps. So you're expecting those people. You get to sit in your home and your rumah or wherever and have your beautiful fruit, meat, whatever, and you make a conscious choice at that point. I can do the right thing here and put it into a separate bucket. Super easy. Okay? Or let the trash pickers sort it out when it's rotten, it's full of maggots and it stinks and it's spewing methane into the environment. So, not the answer you wanted, but the reality of the situation. And look, there are so many fantastic technologies out there for taking inorganics and turning them into something great. And if you look at Sungai Watch, I know Sungai Watch. So they're taking some of their plastics and turning into the Sungai designs stuff, and they have such a great platform. I mean, they're one of my idols, that family, and what they've done, and their teams, right? They're not only doing the rough stuff in the rivers
Yeah.
and the beaches, and we've done cleanups with them, even as Shiva. And we're talking to them at the moment because they get quite a lot of carcasses, and in the rivers it's 70% organics.
Yeah.
You know, so that's not my number. That's coming from Gary. So they have an organics problem too. But quite a lot of carcasses, and our machines can deal with that. So we're talking to them at the moment. eCollaborate are another great company. Kevin and his team, what they're doing, and they're not far from you guys up in Sinua. They have a proprietary technology that creates what looks like an ironwood board. They also do a stone look one, but the ironwood is most impressive. It really, you can't tell. But for decking, for furniture and stuff, and they blend it with some aminos and things. So it's heat resistant. It doesn't fade, things like that. But that's out of really low level plastic. So that to me is fantastic innovation right here. What's both of their issues is getting clean waste that they can process. So we can talk about all the wonderful things that we can do, and we can even go with organics. There's specific bacteria and mycelium now that can break down plastic, but they're in small labs, not at scale. Let's not talk about the shiny things down the road. Yeah. Let's talk about the reality of the situation and act appropriately. Only then can we change.
Okay. So is it the plastic waste can we turn the plastic waste into the high value constructions? Like, as we know, a lot of industry and hospitality industries did it for like changing the plastic waste to something, maybe furniture infrastructure that we can call it as a sustainable products. So what do you think about it? Is it good, or is just like it will end up as a waste too at the end? What do you think about it? So because it's like of a cycle of stress, and we recycle it, and then if it finishes as the product, it will be a long-term product that can be used for a long time.
This is like, I think it's classic misdirection. Okay, so once again, we only recycle 7% of our plastic here.
Okay.
So 93% is still going to landfill. So you might have some uses for the recycled plastic that are cool, but that is not the problem.
Okay.
Yeah. So once again, the flashy, shiny thing over here when the reality is over there. And I'm really split on the concept of kicking the can down the road per se, like you said, right? In repurposing plastics, etc., versus terminating them through pyrolysis and things like that, and creating an end of life moment. I'm not an expert on either, so I'm sure I'm sure people will reach out to me after this interview and fill me in, which I'm open to. But from what I understand, I don't know what the right approach is to that 7% of plastic, right? It's a small amount. Is it to terminate it with the current technology that we have around pyrolysis, etc., or to reinvigorate it, recycle it, upcycle it, and store it in a pretty way? Whether it's a chair or something like that, or whatever. Store it for future generations, because we will always keep advancing, right?
Yeah.
So maybe there is a better way to give an end of life moment to this plastic down the track. Maybe our kids or their kids crack that code, and so I don't know what the best approach is. I love what people are doing with plastics. I think it's awesome. And I'm interested in end of life, but I don't understand the long-term ecological impacts of that. And we see a lot of that here with emissions or stuff spewing into the atmosphere that we work out that we really don't want down the track. So yeah, I think I don't really 100% know on that one, but once again, 7%, 93%. Why don't we focus on getting that number up? Yeah. Reducing waste to landfill, inorganics or organics. And the only way that we can do that is separation.
Yeah.
So maybe one thing that I would support is somebody designs a beautiful recycled plastic bin that goes out to every roomer and every room and hotel room and villas. Yeah, exactly. And it's made out of recycled plastic.
Yeah.
It's been ripped off the beaches, etc. And that's your organics bucket. Everybody gets one. Okay. Then we put our organics in there. They get dealt with separately.
Yeah.
And we keep our plastics and everything clean. Our recycling rate increases. Our waste to landfill rate decreases. Our environment clears up. That's what I prefer.
I agree with that. Anyway, so when we're talking about recycling, it always behind it a business. So as we saw it, like a lot of people doing this kind of recycling and doing this relatable to business. Do you see can waste management become a profitable business and sustainable business model in Indonesia? I mean, like in the future, from your perspective.
From what I understand, and once again, this is around plastics, until there is proper regulation around virgin plastic prices versus recycled plastic prices, I don't think that there is a profitable future there. And once again, you've got to talk about the whole supply chain, that if a business has to spend 20% of its OPEX cleaning plastic, or spend 20% more above market price to get clean plastic, then of course those economics don't add up. So I think if there was a way to dissuade large manufacturers from using virgin plastic, and where appropriate, use recycled plastic over the top, then that would have a seismic, that would create a seismic shift in the market, I believe, in economics. But once again, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but it's separation. So without clean waste, I don't think the economics work, from what I understand.
Yeah.
And once again, I'm not an expert in the whole plastics chain, but from my good friends in the industry around the world doing this, and you've seen major plastic recyclers in Europe close down in the last 12 months. And they can't make it work. You've seen multiple businesses here come and go because they couldn't make it work. So until we understand that we need to produce less virgin plastic, and that's overall, we talk about reduce, reuse, recycle, but we've got to refuse first. Stop the flow of virgin plastics coming in. Stop as many plastics as possible coming into the system. So that's the number one thing, that at a government level they can regulate and work with these large manufacturers. And so stop using virgin plastic and use recycled plastic. If you must, use recycled plastic where it's appropriate. But then what we've been talking about here is, okay, well, the plastic's here and the organics are here. We've got waste now. What do we do with that? That's modern and contemporary and in line with academia, and what we should be doing with our waste, not what we decided to do 100 years or 200 years ago, because that's all we could think of back then.
Okay, talking about supply chain that you have mentioned before, that we always find a lot of challenging moment during the process for the supply chain, everything's. And what do you think about why is it still cheaper to dump than to recycle?
I don't think people really understand what goes into recycling, right? But I mean, even the thought that it's cheaper to dump is so wrong. Like, landfilling sounds cheap, right? But the damage that those landfills are causing to our air, soil, and water, our oceans, are clear, very, 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 very clear. Okay, so you have sebuah, let's say. Actually, we won't name it because I don't want to point any fingers, right? You have a landfill. That landfill is full of organics and inorganics and all sorts of nasties. Yeah. Okay, and rain comes onto the landfill. What happens is that water gets into that landfill. Mm-hmm. Now, organics are incredibly acidic as they start to break down. Highly acidic. So our machines are made out of marine grade stainless steel. And if they were just made out of normal galvanized steel, they would rust to the ground in 3 months. That's how acidic. And anybody can look at a Sampah truck and see the rust on the sides. Okay. So it will eat steel. Right. Great. So that acid starts pulling through the landfill. Now, what does it go past? It gets some ink. It gets some heavy metals. It goes through nappies, sanitary items, needles. What else is in a landfill? Disgusting stuff, right? And its most disgusting phase. Pulls it all through. Where does that go? Into the soil and into the groundwater. What do we rely on here for our water? Groundwater. Okay. And that groundwater either connects to the ocean directly, or maybe there's a runoff in a stream where it goes into a river. So that leachate, which is what it's called, is now polluting soil, rivers, groundwater, and oceans. And that leachate will get out to the oceans and start to destroy reefs, suffocate fish, cause algal blooms, right? So what's the cost of that? The methane that goes into the sky. Everybody's talking about at a global scale about carbon emissions, etc. Food waste produces more greenhouse gases than the entire airline industry. And not just a little bit more, 2.6 times more.
Wow. Okay.
So we get a lot of this pressure. Like I said earlier, if you listen to the marketing and you read the mainstream press and whatever, you've got to offset your flights, and the carbon's crazy. But don't separate your food. That's crazy. So that would have a bigger change. If globally we said, hey, everybody, we're going to separate our food and we're going to deal with it responsibly. No, actually it's easier. Just click a button on an airline's website to offset your flight. Good job. So are landfills cheap? No, the bill just comes later.
Okay. So back again to talking about the hospitality sector. Like you have mentioned before, off the record, like you have collaborations, partnerships with a lot of industry, hospitality, hotels, resorts, villas here, especially here in Bali. So identifying the biggest waste offenders in hotels and resorts, like organic waste versus single-use plastics. So in circular procurement, so how hotels can influence the supply chain by demanding zero waste packaging from the vendors? What do you think about it?
What I might do is hybrid, if that's okay, the previous question, around the cost.
Okay.
And I'll put it into hospitality.
Yeah.
Okay. So the cost of dumping right now versus responsible managing of your waste. The cost, if you look at the OPEX of paying a truck to get rid of it, might seem low. But for hotels, etc., that landfill has been closed to organics since August. And that includes mixed waste. Where do they think their organics are going? If we just think a little bit beyond that.
Yeah.
Okay. I put 1 ton worth of waste into a truck every day, twice a day, some of them. And I know that where they used to take it, and they've probably started charging me more because the landfill's closed. But what's the extra money for? Because where is that truck actually going? That 1 ton of waste. There's only one place in Bali that I know, and they're not getting it. Okay. So that's going into the environment. So when we get big rains, and that all flushes down the river system into the beaches, and the hotels' beaches are all covered up with waste, That's the cost of dumping. When their staff are sick, okay, health problems, we have organic waste building up everywhere, okay, and inorganics, to be fair. But organic waste building up everywhere, that brings with it bacteria, rodents, disease, sickness, right? And maybe it's not your staff member that's directly sick from this. Maybe it's their family member. You know, culturally, it's about the village, right? We live with each other. You know, we look after each other. So then you've got all these sick days. That's the cost of dumping, right? The leachates, the farmers having to use more chemicals maybe because their soils are ruined, you know. That's the cost. They have to put their prices up. That's the cost. Flooding, destruction of infrastructure. That's the cost of dumping. But we don't think there. We just try and look at, if I build a compost pile or I pay, you know, my truck every day, that's more expensive. But we don't think about what effect that's going to have. Yeah. And that's the most dangerous part of what I find. And you talk about procurement and stuff. That's the most dangerous part of what I find in business these days. And in particular in hospitality, yes, HoReCa, but malls, hospitals, schools, you name it. The actual cost of open dumping, those costs are exponential. And they're not coming down the line, okay? And I purposely haven't really talked about methane for that reason, because people write it off as the invisible boogeyman, even though that's the only reason landfills catch on fire. Plastic, not flammable, okay? Or it doesn't self-combust. Metals, etc. The only reason landfills catch on fire is methane, which comes from the organics. But let's not talk about the invisible boogeyman, even though it's a terrifying boogeyman. Let's talk about the real hard facts, and those are the hard costs of landfilling. You talked about supply chain, responsible supply chain management. Look, I'm really proud to say, you know, that our customers, one of our customers, PT Sampah in Surabaya, they've just achieved zero waste to landfill certification.
Oh, okay.
They are a 35-hectare paper mill.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
So if anybody tells you they can't get to zero waste to landfill, they're lying. Right? So Edward and the team there are phenomenal. And yes, they are a paper mill, but they, over the last 50 years, it's a family business. They have done everything within their power to make it the most sustainable paper mill at the very least, and now certified as the most sustainable business in Indonesia from a landfill perspective, zero waste landfill. So that's cool. But I think, given, you know, you guys, the angle around hospitality, the Western. So Sander and Dane and Marcos and the whole team up there, and look, the Marriott brand in general, you know, are very forward with this, and we're incredibly grateful to have them as partners. And, you know, they came on board very early on, and we just, I don't know, I just couldn't be more grateful to those guys for bringing us on, but just for their approach, you know, to the environment and how they operate their businesses. And they do it commercially. It's smart. They're not just waxing money on things to be green. They're very intelligent business people, okay? And Marriott, it's the largest hotel group in the world, 9,500 hotels. They're pretty good at business, okay? So you can be successful and sustainable, okay? But they actually had, after our machine went in, they were doing a renovation in their whole receiving area. And they now created their receiving area to receive goods, give the packaging back to the supplier. So they receive fruit, veg, etc., and it goes into their containers, and it's washed and processed on site in the loading area before it goes into storage for them. So they're just demanding. And if a supplier does bring packaging, then they force them to wait. They unpack it and they give the packaging back to the supplier. So, you know, like let's be real. Like, it's a little change, you know, that area hasn't cost them a lot of money at all. It's just thinking, how if we wanted to do this, how could we do it right? And they have done it right. And the suppliers will work it out. You know, if you're a fruit, veg, meat, poultry, fish, whatever, supplier, you're going to work out that you're wasting a polystyrene box or a cardboard box or plastic or whatever. Like you're a business, you know, you don't want to waste that unnecessarily. Got to go to Western today? Cool. Get rid of it all. Let's do it as lean as we possibly can. So that they're the shining example that I know of, and I'm sure there are others here. There are so many great people in hospitality, and I haven't even scratched the surface really. But there is some incredible operators here that are leading the way with things like this, and it's a mindset shift. But the customer, the hotels, they get to determine that. They get to dictate that, right? And so it's just taking some of that power back for the right reasons, and you save the farmer money or the producer money in packaging. So everybody wins. Right?
So it's a win-win solution.
Win-win. Love solutions. A win-win.
So I have a question more about what do you see and what do you think about the role of waste to energy and to decentralize processing units within these luxuries properties?
I'm a huge fan of waste to energy. I am absolutely. I think it opens up a really interesting conversation because from my understanding, the waste to energy plants, it's not junk waste that goes inside. And to increase the yield of this technology, it needs to be clean waste. So obviously the simple deduction there is that we'll have to work on separation anyway, which would be good for the entire industry. But we have to look at the major waste buckets that we have and what do we need in a modern society. What can we now with technology and or science, because no tech solutions like composting work at home easy. We've proven it with our 50,000 repair bucket. What can we process on site? And then what could be semi-decentralized? So what could potentially happen like a banjar level, bank sampah, etc. So, and then what needs to be centrally processed? What makes sense? So if we look at the two waste sources, let's say plastic, which everybody, has eyes on, and organics, which is the majority. So organics are 72% of the waste flow and plastics are, let's say, 16%. Okay. So 88% of the waste that goes on a truck now doesn't have to leave the banjar.
Okay. Interesting.
So 12% left over, which is other inorganics and residues, etc. Arguably doesn't have to leave bank sampah, but the residues in particular, the nasties, the nappies, the needles, the bad stuff, I think should be taken centrally and dealt with properly in an end-of-life termination, pyrolysis, super high heat. Done it. Get rid of it. Okay. But so yesterday we're looking at our trash and it's 100% of that waste goes on a truck, goes to somewhere. But if we can manage organics either at home or in gang or at least in banjar, that's 72% of the waste that goes on the trucks, 100% of the smell, 100% of the instability, that acidity and all that sort of stuff. Then we know like our plastics and cans and stuff, we can generate money from. So we can keep those in banjar as well. So now all of that beautiful compost or black soldier fly, the maggots with the proteins, or the vermicompost with the chaching, or Shiva digestate stays in the banjar. All of that value that can be used to rejuvenate soils, that can be used to grow community gardens. We can have herbs, we can have chilies, we can have all of this sort of stuff. Fruit, vegetables, all of that stays there. 72% of what we throw on a truck right now could put value back into a community. Wow. And then the plastics, we're already monetizing that with Bank Sampah. So 12%. Why are we? That for me is if I had to design a banjar, that's the way that I would do it. So then begs the question, how much waste is actually going to go to a waste to energy plant? If we use a modern design, if we're looking for a silver bullet to still throw 100% of our trash away, not separate, kick the can down the road, and still have trucks stinking up the roads, filling up the roads, falling apart because they're not made from the right steel, no number plates, the lowest of the low workers with no job esteem. It's their problem. It's going to go to waste to energy. And we just still centrally manage it. If we're looking at it that way, then I don't support it. No way, shape or form. And it's just a lazy attempt at a Band-Aid, and it will fail again. But this time it'll cost us tens, if not hundreds of millions, if not billions. I believe the number for Indonesia is 5 billion for that project. I believe in it, but as long as we modernize the entire system that leads to it, and we're using it for the right reasons. And to be honest, you could say the same for anything. If we're using it for the wrong reasons, no.
So it's between the policy, people and power, of course, and collaborative things kind of models, right? And that, what do you think about how the private sector, especially for the recyclers and the waste managers, can work with local banjar and the government? So what do you think that you have been through everything through these people, policy and power? What do you think? Who is responsible for it?
So, sorry, the question is because you were saying about recyclers working with banjar.
Yeah, so how the private sector, recyclers or waste managers can work with local banjar and the government?
Oh, look, I mean, it should be hand in glove. I think the private sector de-risks government initiatives. Otherwise, the government would have to find experts in specific fields and invest on a risk that it might not pay off, right? So we bring surety to the model for them. Yes, it's commercial. There's risk, but there's also reward if recyclers can be successful. And in particular around waste tech and green tech, for sure. And I think we're an example of that. I think the private sector de-risks government initiatives and can support and show where there is promise and where potentially the government could support with grants or regulation or whatever. If the government was expected to be an expert in all areas, in all things, and even if you look at my business, you'd have to be an expert in electrical engineering, in mechanical engineering, in microbiology, in agronomy, in fluid dynamics, thermodynamics. That doesn't sound like any government individual that I've met. And that's just Shiva. Yeah. So what about the other industries that we're working on? What about the marine side? So we can't expect the government to be superhuman. They're not. That's okay. But the government needs to recognize that they're not superhuman and then support the superhumans who are trying and succeeding in their chosen fields. And so I think it should be symbiotic. Ultimately, we're all humans. They're not different to us and we're not different to them. And we are all humans. We all breathe the same air.
Yeah.
We eat the same food. Okay, some like it a bit spicier, but that's okay. We drink the same water. We're under the same sun and moon. So we need to work for those things, not for whatever our name badge says or the color of our skin even or whatever. Those things are so irrelevant. It's about our planet. It's about people. It's Trihita Karana, right? If we could get back to that, that'd be great. Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, when we are talking and these collaborative models, so there'll always be like initiatives, education, and versus the infrastructure.
Mm.
So from your side, do we need more trucks or a complete change in the Balinese waste disposal mindset?
I think our systems aren't broken. They work perfectly.
So it's not broken anyway.
Not in any way, shape or form. Our waste systems have been designed that way for a couple of 100 years. And it is to get it the hell away from me as a waste producer. That's what they're designed to do. They're designed to dump. And so they work very well at that. And so if we want to perpetuate that nightmare, yeah, sure, throw some more trucks in there, throw some more bins in there. Fine. Go and keep filling up holes. Right? And that's a global issue. Australia, the government of New South Wales, I read recently, approaching mines to try and find big holes because their landfills are full. So they want to go and find bigger holes to go and put more waste in. Okay. I was in Bandung last week. Their tip is 200% overfull.
Wow.
So yeah, sure. If we want to go and dig more holes and perpetuate the nightmare and really light the fuse on the dynamite that is there, that is the planet at the moment, sure, fine. Go and do that. But if we want to listen to the science, listen to the planet, she's screaming. Listen to the planet, listen to the people. We're getting sicker. We're getting unhealthier.
Yeah.
Our water's getting worse. There's so much toxins and leachates and crap in there now. I mean, if you're lucky, it's, your well is 20 meters lower than where it used to be. If not 30 or 40. Or you get there at 60 meters or 70 meters and it's full of salt, it's full of heavy metals and all of that leachate, that toxic paste.
Yeah.
It's full of that stuff. So, if we listen to the planet, if we listen to the science and we go, do you know what? We're intelligent human beings. We're evolved from when we decided this was the right thing to do with our waste a couple 100 years ago. We're smarter than that. We're better than that. Let's design a modern waste system to deal with our waste in a contemporary way. That's what really for me, that's probably that's what I would really, really love to happen. And so when we talk about infrastructure and education, yeah, that requires some education because it's a change, right? It's a big change. But I don't think we have an option, honestly. And if I was asked this question the other day and I nearly burst into tears at what would be the message for your children in 20 years?
Yeah.
And my answer was we tried. Because I don't think we're gonna get there in 20 years. And I don't think people really have any idea of how nasty that looks.
Yeah.
So yeah. So education. Oh, is that going to take time and be expensive? Yeah. But what if we don't?
It's going to be worse.
A hell of a lot worse. And will there be infrastructure required for that? Of course. Mm-hmm. But as we just laid out, do we need more trucks? No, we need less trucks. We need smaller trucks because there's only 12% of what we produce going to a landfill. The rest of it stays in the Banjar. So it's not all doom and gloom. It's not, this is going to be a huge exercise. It's going to be so expensive. It's going to be this. It's going to be that. Actually, it might be cheaper. Certainly from an environmental perspective, it will be cheaper, a hell of a lot cheaper. And our children and our children's children will thank us deeply for doing the work and putting the hard yards in now. If not a little bit too late, but the best time was yesterday. The second best time is today to start doing stuff. So yeah, I would love to see a modern and a more contemporary approach to waste applied globally. Right, I'm not honing in on this part of the world. Globally, I would love to see that, and I think future generations will thank us for that.
I see. All right. Okay. So scaling the solution that can Bali lead the world for this issue, like case studies of successful waste management that currently working on from the integrations in this hospitality industries, the role of technology like AI sorting, blockchains tracking for waste, and high-tech composting. So we can call it as the green premium. So will guests pay more for a true zero waste stay? Or what do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, I think humans in general would pay more if there was no waste on the planet. A zero waste planet, bit of a pipe dream, of course, but yeah, because we are natural beings. We're just apes with ego trips, right? So, yeah. Of course, we prefer to be in nature. We prefer to be in beautiful nature. It's enriching, you know. It's like solitary confinement. Okay, that's designed to really hurt the soul, right? Hurt the human. The only thing it's absent of is nature, right? That's what hurts us the most, you know. So yes, I think we would all be happier and healthier, probably have more money, and probably spend more money to be around zero waste environments. And I think with the GSTC certifications and a lot of the green certifications, especially around hospitality, those are really driving for those types of experiences. And I see Marriott just released their local experiences, which go into more ecological experiences and stuff, environmental experiences, which is awesome. And that's based on data. I mean, once again, these guys are great business people. So they're doing this not because they want to, they're doing it because their guests want to. Okay. And if you want to walk them through a subak that's full of plastic, then I don't think that's right. Do you know what I mean? So yes, less waste, awesome, more valuable, definitely. As far as really deep tech, crypto and stuff like that, or like tokenizing stuff. Look, I think that's interesting. Okay. But it doesn't play to the lowest common denominator. It doesn't play to Ibu and Jadalui, right? Bapak and Sayan, right? It doesn't play to that group. And so it might sound, once again, we go flashy, shiny, cool, but that doesn't actually move the elephant. And the elephant is sort of stuck in the mud right now. So I'm all for, I think that 70-20-10 rule, so 70% is focusing on BAU and the task at hand. 20% of your effort goes into advancing that and maybe future-proofing. And 10% is like moonshots, cool ideas. And that's where I think the microbes and bacteria around eating plastic and mycelium and maybe some of that tokenization and stuff like that sits. I hope that it comes off. And if they do come off and are able to be integrated into the whole, then they'll be wildly successful and have a huge impact. Okay. And everybody wants that. But we cannot look away from the BAU, and especially with organics. Every year it's over 1 million tons in Bali. Every day, every minute, that number ticks up. So we can't be focused over here on a pipe dream that's 5-10 years out. But every second, more organic waste. Okay, so we need to focus on all areas here. I hope that some of those come off, but we need more hands down here. And that 70% of our effort and our investment and all of that needs to be down here. Yeah. Then 20%, what's that going to look like in 5 years? What will this look like in 5 years? How do we make sure it's evolving? How do we make sure it's, it's moving forward and it's keeping up with the times? And then, what are some of those awesome, big, deep tech things that could happen? So yeah, I think it's a blended approach, but in the right ratios. The wrong ratios will kill us.
Okay, so that's the important thing from the true zero waste stay, right? So I think we have been through a lot of things talking about this case, crisis, waste, organics, plastic, everything's. We hopefully it's getting better in the future, of course, especially for Bali's international tourism area and supporting sustainable program in this hospitality industry. So how will we call it an actions for the industry? So Tobias, if we don't solve this by 2030, let's say, what does Bali might look like in your perspective, your opinion, and your experience?
I think the future is incredibly dark, but I don't see that as being a possibility.
Yeah,
I see with the cultural governments and the desa adat, etc. that I'm in contact with, right? And the provincial government and the central government, etc. These are all really deep conversations and really action-filled conversations that we're having now. Okay. I don't think we're at that, let's talk about it, let's put out a press release and then not do anything.
Yeah.
We're past that. We tried that already and proven it didn't work. And so everybody's now focused. And like I said, I was in Bandung last week. I'm in Magelang next week. And these are with the Wali Kota and the rest of the council to talk about options. And once again, not Shiva as the option, Shiva as one option, but to talk about that blended approach to modern waste management. How much of the value of what we now call waste, how much value can we extract from what we now call waste, and how much of that value can we retain at source and either at the hotel or the hospital, the mall, the school, or at the desa, right? So they're very active conversations and they want to act. So I'm going to say act throughout 1,000 times. Obviously, I can come up with another word, I'm sure. But no, they're very motivated. They're very motivated. They know their landfills are full. They know what they're doing now doesn't work. What they don't know is what to do next. Neither does the world. So that's okay. Whether you're Bandung or Boston, it doesn't matter. Nobody really knows at a government level what to do, which way to run. There's plenty of professionals in the private sector who have ideas. And it's about, like I said before, that symbiotic sort of unity of unison of coming together and working on modern problems with modern solutions and modern data and information. So yeah, in short, if we don't solve it by 2030, we're in major trouble. Environmentally, the south of Bali might be past the point of no return, for sure. If we let the 2,000, 3,000 tons a day go into the ravines and into the rivers and stuff like that, continuously, we decide that we don't want to separate our waste, even at a municipal level in the rumah, right? Or the hotels or Airbnbs, whatever. If we decide to continue on the path that we're on right now, it will be broad ecological destruction. And that will affect Panitas, Lambongans, etc. Right? It's, so then people who come for diving over there aren't going to come through Sano or whatever anymore. I don't even want to think about how bad that would be. And the amount of methane that would have spewed into the environment by that time would be catastrophic, and leading to huge spikes in global warming, which is, bleaching reefs across the world, not just in Indonesia. The leachates from that would be catastrophic as well. I don't think you'd have groundwater by then. So it would be, if you could find it, it would be too toxic. I think you would see rampant sickness as well, because the amount of rotting, like nightmare fuel, and ideal situations to grow disease, bacteria, etc., they would just keep building up everywhere, and it would become a playground for bugs and all manner of nasties. So I think your hospital systems would be overrun. I think your overall all-cause mortality rates would increase. You wouldn't have access to water other than gallons or whatever. The government had to subsidize because you can't have people without water, right? The air would be a lot worse than it is now. Yeah, I mean, if I'm thinking worst case scenario, it's a pretty dark way to think. But like I said, I don't think we're going to get there. I think the way I feel about the conversations I'm having and that I know my peers in the industry are having, and certainly what I'm reading and seeing is a real change of the guard. The president himself has declared a war on Sampah. Okay, that's support from the highest level, and really sort of pushed the action button, 10 days ago, whenever he gave his speech. So we are going to avert the crisis, but it's a whisker away. If we choose not to, we think it's a bit too hard, or, if we just think about some of those, what if I don't? And that's what keeps me up at night. What if I don't? It's also what gets me up in the morning. What if I don't? One of our machines, you can take, 700 tons out of the environment a year. One machine. And there's 200 4- and 5-star hotels in Bali. So we can literally take thousands of tons out of the environment, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions. But we are one solution. It's not the right solution for everybody, and I'm happy to say that, right? And there's no tech solutions. There's food rescue. Give it to people who need it. Yeah. There's a number of illegal landfills here that I know of where you have 40, 50, 100 families living on an illegal dump that the Banjar knows is there. The trucks just come up and dump it. And the families, children, everything, they take what they can for food and they try and sell what they can in the rest. Is that okay? Is that what we want for our countrymen? Yeah. Is that what we want for children growing up here? Is
for all the generations in the future, right?
For humans in general. Yeah, we're treating them worse than animals. Mm-hmm. And I feel like we're at a real point of change, and I'm really proud to be part of that, and to be an audience for that change, because I think it'll be a real pivotal moment for Bali and for Indonesia, and in turn Southeast Asia. Yeah. And so I think in part of your question, can Bali lead the way? 100%, and we should be proud about that.
We should.
The Balinese culture is so intrinsically linked with the Terta and the Tanah, right, and the Cerita Kerana. Let's show the world how much we care about those things. Let's prove it. Yeah. So otherwise it's pretty easy to prove that we don't care about those things.
Yeah.
Which I don't want to think about. So we will do those things, and Bali is already leading the way in some of those areas, and I think we can do even more.
Yeah, I totally agree with you with your statement. Of course, as the young generations, that I saw it from my perspective that we as a young generation should have this kind solving the problems together, one to another, reminding not to spread negativity news about Bali itself. Like the issue in this island of paradise should be done by ourselves first. And then we can solve it together with a lot of programs that are already running in this beautiful island. So the most important thing that you say that to all generations, all human beings in the future, that we have to take care of our responsibility first for our trust, the Bali's waste crisis. And Mike, if you want to say something to the audiences, all the listeners that you can say about your perspective from this Bali's waste crisis. topic?
Oh no, look, I think we've covered it. And I can see the people sitting there who've been listening the whole time, the podcast, go, please don't say anything. I've got, I need to go to the toilet. Or I need to go to work. So look, it's just know that your sphere of influence, your 1 meter squared, is your world, your domain. You're in control of that. Now, if you're fortunate enough or lucky enough and whatever to be able to increase your sphere of influence, amazing. Okay. But just focus on this little bit first. Okay. There are so many great people out there doing amazing things for this place and planet, and they're working tirelessly to try and come up with either technology or other ways and means to help with the crisis. And I don't think it's this generation's fault that we're in this crisis. I think it's definitely something that's been building for a while, but it's our responsibility to do something about it. And if people do not take that responsibility, everybody from GMs, owners, through to any of the rumors and stuff, whoever, right? It's your responsibility. It's our responsibility to do something about it. Yeah. If we just try and look the other way, it's now at that point where you can't, because you look the other way, but the smell is there, or you block your nose so that you see it, right? Or if you try to do this one, then you hear the floods coming, you cannot get away from it now. So that we must act. So if you can act within your 1 square meter, that's amazing. Okay. And if that is your sphere of influence is larger because you're a GM or something like that, then act, because we are at war, as the president has said, and it's time to pick a side. So I'd be interested to see how it plays out over the next 12 months, 24 months. But, from the people that I get to interact with and speak to, and our customers and my peers in the industry, I'm incredibly proud to be part of this sort of, this revival of environmentalism and in particular going after the big things that we need to worry about, and with my sole focus on organic waste. So if people, I'm pretty easy to find. So, I won't bother with any of the marketing stuff there, but, people can come and find me and find the team at Shiva. Yeah. People are really welcome to come and visit us. And the public is in Gatsu, near Mitra 10, Pondok Indah 2. We love to show people, and we're happy to come out and do a waste assessment, and I'll be the first one. And I can name a dozen customers now who I've said, you don't need one of our machines. So I'm happy to come out and give, a reasonably unbiased, viewpoint on, hey, have you given this, could you give this food away to scholars of sustenance or something like that, right? Give it to people in there. Animals. Then, okay, can you compost? No, we can't because it's too busy, and the smell, okay? Can you black soldier fly? Well, the smell again, and maybe not. Could you vermicompost? We don't have the land. Okay, well, then maybe you do need a mechanized solution and Shiva. And our machines, the smallest machine is only as big as this, right? Oh. So, and can do 100 kilos a day. So, it's 33 tons a year or something. It's 36 tons a year. So it's quite a lot of waste. And so they're quite compact. And all you need to do is plug it in. There's no installation. This doesn't take 6 months or 12 months, right? It's when we arrive on our truck, we put the machine down, we plug it in, we connect it to Wi-Fi because it's got IoT and sensors so we can collect data and maintain the machine properly. You start putting waste in straight away. The impact is immediate. But if it's the right solution for people, we'd love to talk to them. If not, or if they're looking to connect with other members of the waste industry, I can certainly do my very best. We're connected to the best around composting, the best around black soldier fly, even vermicomposting and stuff as well. So look, I appreciate that. I won't go into any more marketing details.
Marketing details.
We can put it in the comments. We can put it in the description.
Well, the most important thing is take action right now.
Take action.
Take actions right now.
Definitely.
So thank you so much, Mr. Tobias. It's really a pleasure to meet you and talk about these issues. I'm so happy to meet you. I got a lot of insightful insights from your side.
Thank you. Thank you very much. They were really great questions. And look, once again, this is just another example of having the right conversations. So, thank you so much for having me. Matur suksma. And I really hope that if there are any comments or anything like that, or people just a bit stuck on how to act, just reach out to the Shiva guys, and we'll happily point them in the right way. We're happy to help.
Or you can find the Shiva Industries through the Instagram or any social media platforms, right?
Yeah. Instagram and shivaindustries.tech.
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye. Bye.